with Bret Hart rumored to have signed a lucrative contract and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for April 22nd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. During his interview with the New York Post, AEW star and ROH TV champion Samoa Joe was asked about potentially joining William Regal's Blackpool Combat Club. As he said, "There are a lot of men within that stable I have a great amount of respect from, and some I'm learning to acquire respect for. Obviously, some would think that it would be a perfect fit for me, but I've never been one to be a very good teammate, so I don't know how that would work." With him set to challenge Moose tomorrow night for the Impact World title at Rebellion, Josh Alexander spoke on the Battleground podcast about choosing to sign with Impact over AEW. "It was an easy decision for me. Right now, I think the one thing that's changed in the wrestling landscape, especially for free agents and professional wrestlers, is regardless of whatever you have to offer, you have to be the top 10% to have a job now in one of those sustainable positions at any of these companies, Impact included. Because as you've seen with AEW signing up everybody that they can and all this other stuff, it's just like the waters are kind of picked dry a little bit, and whoever's left is kind of fighting for whatever's left." On AEW Dynamite, Tony Khan announced plans with the president of New Japan for a joint show in June. On Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez noted that this was a backup plan in the event that his Ring of Honor deal fell through. "I don't know when this deal came about, but this may be the second big announcement that Tony had in his pocket, because a couple of weeks ago when he announced that there was going to be a big announcement and it ended up being the Ring of Honor announcement, but when he made that announcement for an announcement, that announcement wasn't made, so we had a backup announcement. It may have been this, so it's possible, especially if you look at the booking of New Japan. It's possible that they have this card already booked." Dave Meltzer would also note that a lot of people have asked about Stardom. At this point, Stardom is not part of this deal, and Stardom has a pay-per-view show on June 26th. Reacting to Tony Khan's announcement, Vince Russo on the Bro Show accused the AEW president of making repeated appearances on television to stroke his ego. "I've been working in the business for a very long time. I've been around the biggest egomaniacs in the history of man. Seriously, I don't think I've ever seen anyone in the business who needs their ego stroked more than Tony Khan. That's what this is all about." Tony Khan wants to go out in front of his niche audience and be like, "Look what I did for you guys. We're gonna have a pay-per-view within JPW. Don't you love me? Get up on your feet and cheer me." He should be focusing on growing the audience instead, and JPW is not going to create one new viewer for your show. This is all Tony getting his ego stroked. While he is no longer a part of AEW, it seems Cody Rhodes is keeping his promise to send a fan to an all-elite wrestling show. Back in October, a fan would take to Twitter to write, "My brother passed away today. It's been a very dreary and upsetting day, but me and my nephew, his son, got AEW Rampage to keep us company." Cody replied, "I'm very sorry for your loss and pain. That's a beautiful family bond. My thoughts are with you. Would you guys like to come to a show near you sometime?" Recently, they said, "My nephew just asked about this with the upcoming Dynamite in Philadelphia, and I'm trying to explain to him that the guy who was getting his tickets is in WWE now, so I don't know." Despite being in WWE, Cody would react writing, "I got you. Check DMs." Following his match against Steve Austin at WrestleMania 38, it seems Kevin Owens already has a match in mind for next year's event, naming a celebrity to face on After the Bell. "I always welcome people from the outside coming in, if they're cool. Some of them aren't cool, and as far as I'm concerned, those guys can go back to where they came from. We don't need them. The Jackass crew was unbelievable. Logan Paul, people can say a lot about him. He's got this reputation and people have made their judgment on him, and a lot of them are not going to change their mind, and that's fine. But I've seen this guy for firsthand, coming with a great attitude, wanting to do good stuff. He works hard, and he gets it. Nobody can deny that. I did interviews before WrestleMania. People were asking me, if you could pick a celebrity to have a match with, who would it be? He's my favorite actor. A few years ago, Matthew McConaughey came to a show. He was backstage. I didn't get to meet him because there was a line of people waiting to talk to him, so I didn't get to see him. I would have loved to say hi. I remember not long after that, he talked about how he would love to do something in WWE. I don't know him at all, but he seems like the kind of guy who would be coming in to do it right and have a blast. People like that are welcome in our industry anytime. If we're speaking things into existence, WrestleMania 39, come at me McConaughey, I'm gonna f you up. Kevin Owens would also note on After the Bell that he has a lot of respect for Dolph Ziggler. He then mentioned that he doesn't want to end up like the show-off when it comes to not getting opportunities. He's a guy I respect a ton. I'm not so sure whether I have told him this, but he is definitely one of the people that I would look at and think, man, I don't want to be like Dolph, in the sense that Ziggler is so good, and I would see him so frustrated because he's so good and he feels like he should be doing more, and he was right. This was 2015, 2016. I was like, I don't want to be like that. I want to come to work and I don't want to be frustrated all the time, but guess what? When you're passionate and hungry and know you're good, which is what he is, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen to everybody. Speaking about his arrival to AEW and potential dream opponents, former ROH World Champion Jay Lethal told the TWC show that, I've not been in the ring with, and I was a big fan of Chris Jericho, especially during Y2J and the Big Countdown. I remember me and my brother going nuts, and we would memorize some of Jericho's promos. I remember there was that one point where he had someone in the walls of Jericho, and he'd be screaming, I'm the king of the world, I'm the king of the world. I said that for years. So yeah, Jericho is definitely on the top of the list for me, but just getting to be around him and work with him, if that's all I can do, then I'm fine with that, because it's been a pleasure talking with him, and him sharing some ideas with me, and he's been nothing but great to me, and it's been incredible. But if I do get to be in the ring with him, it's the icing on the cake. With it revealed that FTR will be managed by Bret Hart for an indie wrestling event, fans started thinking that the Hitman could be coming to AEW. According to Dave Meltzer, those in the company think Bret has already signed with WWE. The reason this is on an indie show and not AEW is that those in AEW are of the belief that Hart quietly signed a lucrative WWE deal that would ban him from appearing on AEW shows, but he is allowed to do indie shows, so that loophole allowed this to happen. This also means they believe he can't be a part of the Owen Hart tournament presentation. Talking about AEW's future on the MacMania podcast, Eric Bischoff had praise for the company, but was not optimistic about it competing with WWE's Monday Night Raw. It's not relatively new. It's a newborn baby in terms of its lifespan if you compared it to a human. He's made tremendous progress in a very short period of time, and I don't know how anybody can look at that trajectory and not recognize that as being pretty damn cool and be impressed with it. AEW, the company as a whole, is going to have to define at some point the vision. What makes AEW different than WWE? You can talk about it. You can kind of create a narrative about it. But when you look at the show, when you look at AEW, when you look at WWE, if you're not in the weeds and in the dirt sheets, living on the internet, spending half a day on Reddit, how would you describe the difference between those two shows? I think that's really hard to do right now. On a personal level, I think Tony has got his head plugged into the dirt sheet wrestling community far too much. When you produce a show, especially like wrestling, you need to know who your audience is, and you need to know who you want to be your audience. You have to grow your business. You can't just keep serving the same hardcore dirt sheet wrestling fan psychology and mentality and expect to grow your business. You want to get up to 1.5 million viewers and be really competitive with Raw or SmackDown? Guess what? You're going to have to take that million, give or take, viewers that you have every week and grow that by 50% or 75% or 100% in order to be truly competitive. I don't see that happening because I think Tony is Dirt Sheet Booker of the Year 2 years in a row. While they last competed against each other on programming for Survivor Series in 2020, undisputed champion Roman Reigns has been facing off against Drew McIntyre during house shows lately. The Observer would mention that McIntyre doesn't have a program at the moment, and is a favorite to face Reigns for the main event of WrestleMania Backlash. 2 weeks of SmackDown will be taped tonight, so there should be some kind of segment regarding this potential feud. Meltzer would also note that other matches being built on television right now are Kevin Owens versus Ezekiel, which feels more like a TV match than a pay-per-view match, Lashley versus Omos, Happy Corbin versus Madcap Moss, Veer Mahan versus Rey Mysterio, who should be healthy soon as this may happen on TV first like it was planned, and Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. Despite recently returning from a torn ACL to tag team action as a part of Top Flight, Darius Martin has suffered a leg injury and is on the sideline according to Fightful. He's expected to be out of action for a lengthy period, which is unfortunate given he was gone for more than a year dealing with his previous injury. Speaking of tag teams, FTR's Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood will be facing each other in a qualifying match for the Owen Hart Cup. On the Wrestling Perspective podcast, Harwood would note that him and Cash wrestling as opponents was completely their idea. Cash would go on to say, "We're never going to do a breakup angle, so when we heard about the Owen, we were like, we gotta go to Tony with the idea of the singles match. He didn't like it, but he was like, okay, I gotta see if I can make it make sense." We just stayed on him about it. Finally, he was like, alright, I got a way where we can make it all work. You'll do it in Philly. It's going down. So yeah, he liked the idea, and he finally gave us the nod, and here we are. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.